That's good. Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Mayor's Affordability Roundtable meeting for June 25th, 2024. We'll call to order the meeting. To start with, we have regrets from Kate, Fleming, and George. I know George has a conflict. He's got his United Way AGM tonight. So, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest for tonight's meeting? Okay, seeing none. At this point in time, I would like to approve the agenda. Could I have a mover to approve the agenda as presented? Sorry. Go ahead. All right. We have a motion and a seconder, and that'd be seconded by Paul. All those in favor? And the agenda is approved. I am going to just insert here, normally we would have the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. As you know from the beginning, we were borrowing staff time. So the individual that has been helping us out, Marie, has been swamped this past month with planning for our community days. So the minutes haven't been completed yet, and we will get those completed and get them sent to our council meeting and see if anything we can look at having anything pulled from there from the council meeting. So at this point in time, this is where we would typically have our deputations. Mayor Martin, did you want to speak to that? Did you have some follow-up from somebody who was going to present a deputation?
Thanks, Chair Huffman. We had Mr. Bunting, who had registered last month,
right,
but we didn't have any uptake on that, and it wasn't relevant to tonight's subject.
Okay.
So, but I have been corresponding with the community on maybe a couple late additions if the committee was okay from hearing from either Tom or Ange. They have a deputation that they would put forward, but they're not on the agenda, so we'd have to just move a motion.
Okay, can we look at moving a motion to hear from a last-minute deputation? Is there a mover for that? Paul, and a seconder? Sarita, and all in favor? And that is carried. And so at this point in time, we do have a deputation. So whichever one of you would like to speak, Tom or Ange? Welcome. You know the drill with the microphone. Yeah.
Angie O'Hara, Waterford. So this is going to be very casual, and it's just been some conversation that is being taking place. Because we're building a lot of homes that have the accessory residential dwelling units in them, and we've been trying to, with some of our marketing and social media presence, just trying to get the message out there as to what is an ARDU, how does it work, how can it help you with affordability. We've have a few different scenarios as to whether you live in the basement and you rent out upstairs, if you are maybe just a single or maybe a couple, it pays a huge chunk of your mortgage. And I can probably rely on Sarita to talk about that as well. Or if you're, maybe a family, need a bit more space, live upstairs, rent out the basement, and whether it's another single person or a professional or a young couple starting out, or maybe it's the in-laws or a family member. These are not homes that are meant to house 11 families, which, this is kind of some of the perception out there that we're getting, is that we're building these houses that like all these families are gonna live in. And that's not the intention. It's really to help with affordability. It's to offset the mortgage. And hopefully Sarita can talk to that about how she can maybe qualify, from a mortgage standpoint side of it, how people can use that income that's being generated from the suite or the upstairs space to offset their debt servicing ratio. So one of the things that we're dealing with as a builder, though, is trying to reduce the price of what it's costing us to build. And the ways that we are going to be able to do that is reducing the footprint of the house. We just know it costs so much per square foot to build. The only way you're going to get that cost down is building smaller houses. But one of the things that if you're still trying to get an ARDU into the house is that you need to have a separate stairwell for the ARDU as well as the main dwelling. We came from another area where that wasn't a requirement in another province. We could stack stairwells on top of one another so that way it cut down the amount of extra space that was needed for that stairwell to go into the suite. So that's definitely something from a building code side of it that we would love to maybe try to have a conversation with the people in the permit and building department, that if maybe we can work together and lobby to maybe try to reduce some of those requirements. We also have quite a high natural glazing requirement here for our suites as well. And when you're getting into a tiny space and a big chunk of it needs to be glazing, that also is affecting how you're going to build, because if you've got a house that has a deck on the back of it and then a side entrance, and then you got your front door, and whether there's a garage or not on the front of it, there's nowhere for windows. So we need to make sure that we're addressing egress for safety. Huge, bigger windows in the basement so you don't feel like you're in a dungeon or that you're feeling trapped, because we need to make sure that they're safe. But I think there's ways to try to work around that. And I just would like to kind of maybe open up the dialogue with the building and permit department, if maybe we could have some workshops on how we can, as builders, try to continue to work forward with getting those ARDUs, but maybe looking at reducing some costs, because it's huge when you put in a second staircase and doors and all the other things that go along with it, fire rating, all of that. There's a big cost involved. So, yeah. So.
Those are great points. Sarita?
I just have a question. And I'm kind of green on this because it's not my area of expertise, but these regulations, like for example, the stairwell and the glazing, how it was different in another province, I'm assuming Alberta, is that a provincial thing or is that a municipal thing here at the Norfolk County level for those kinds of standards?
My understanding, it's the provincial building code. Yeah. And then from there, then, there could be other things that maybe, it's at a municipal level, but our key thing is just the basic building code side of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor Martin?
Thank you. Through you to Angie, is this the case in all buildings or is it just for new buildings?
No, so my understanding here is that if you have a home that's 5 years old, that you no longer have to work through that same level of requirements. So this is for the existing homes that are out there, if they are looking to try to find ways to generate some revenue along with their property, then that would be an opportunity for somebody with an older home, and not that 5 years is older, but at least, 5 years. And that's where I think too, the building department has put out a really good information package on the ARDUs, and it's not an easy process. So I know at one of the previous meetings, there was talk of have a night where you could just come in and apply for a permit and be out the door with it. So that isn't really on the ARDU side of it, because each house needs to be looked at on its own merits. And, are there window changes that to be made, doorways, maybe somebody's putting in a separate entrance into the property. They're really one-off situations, whereas when we're dealing with it from new construction, we can kind of take that all into consideration right from the very beginning.
And then, if you don't mind, off topic from the accessory dwelling units, but what other ways are you looking at, and should we be encouraging developers, it's not really related to upper levels of government, but to make housing more affordable? Like we've talked before about the garages. What's your position on basements?
To have them or not have them?
Yeah, I had an interesting conversation with the builder in Woodstock yesterday.
It's, you're building on slab. You don't have that extra cost of excavation. The only issue then, though, that we find is it becomes really hard because you have a small footprint, and where do you put your mechanical areas? And typically we see our mechanical areas are in a garage or in the basement. So if you lose those spaces, they then become closet areas. And we were involved in, previous life with marketing a project where it was on slab, and that mechanical room is off of the kitchen common area, and it can be a little noisy, when the furnace rumbles up and everything else is going on, and it takes up floor space. So I think it's just, again, each build is its own thing, and you got to try and figure out a way to do it. And I think it's fine. You just need to have the space, but maybe that type of build is more of a situation where it's a 1-bedroom on the main floor, or maybe no bedroom on the main floor, and like a loft area upstairs. I think you just gotta look at what the needs are. And that's, what we're constantly trying to ask people is like, what is it that you need? Do you need 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms? Do you need more? Do you want less stairs and more stairs? Like, are you okay with stairs going down to the basement? And everybody's wish list is very, very long. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to meet the wish list and be affordable. And I think people's expectations are very high, and we need to take a step backwards, unfortunately, and look at, we can't have granite and quartz, and we can't have hardwood throughout, and we can't have, 6-inch to 10-inch baseboards and, and oversized casings. Like, we need to take it back to the basics. And, you look at the little what a lot of people call the wartime houses, or the little bungalows or 2 stories. We have a tendency to call them jewel box homes. They're a very standard box-on-box type build, and it helps get the cost down. But then, on the flip side, then you have people telling you that you're building, ugly houses and cheap houses, and you're building houses on postage-sized stamp lots. I don't, it's hard. Like, we're in a catch-22 that we need to build smaller, but then people will complain. And then if you build the bigger, then people are complaining that they don't have the smaller that they can afford. So,
yeah, got to find that balance.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would like to see us advocate to the provincial government for with regards to infrastructure or development charges that you think is missing?
Well, I know we'll be told we need to pay for everything. So that's a really tough thing for me to be commenting on, because it's, we're, as developers, we're paying for the roads, we're paying for the services that are going into our subdivisions, and that's expected.
Okay, thank you.
If that's answering your question, like, it's hard, right? Like, how do I
guess I was just wondering if there's any gaps that you would like to see the government address. Like, are there any, you're coming from out of province, are there any other development charge calculations that you've recognized that are going to help with economic development in a community, but also are encouraging, building, or from an infrastructure perspective, like funding infrastructure?
I think just initially, I think the big thing is it's just all the upfront costs. Like, if there was a way during the course of the development to kind of amortize the costs a bit, then I think that would probably help, because at least then you can get going. Like, there's just so many upfront costs between the studies and infrastructure and carrying costs with financing. By the time you even get to a point that you're digging a hole, you've already spent millions and millions and millions of dollars. And our current subdivision, which is only 156 homes, it's taken us 8 years. And so it's a long time. It doesn't happen overnight, and the costs are really high. And so I don't know. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, Tom, or not. No. Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Ange? this is, you can sit down if you want. This is just kind of tagging on to what you had mentioned in terms of the accessory dwelling units. And just looking for, maybe Sarita, if you can, if someone's, what I don't understand is that if someone's going in for a mortgage and there is an accessory dwelling unit, but obviously you don't own the home yet, how do you get that to kind of go against your debt service ratio if you haven't rented it out yet?
What we do is sorry, it's been a long day. I was on a kid field trip today. We do an appraisal, and the appraiser will determine market rents, and we can use that number. They find comparables in the area and, you know, what Norfolk County really can rent out a unit like that for, and then that's what the lender uses. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, these ADUs are a fantastic thing. Absolutely fantastic. Goes a long way with helping affordability and people get into stunning homes. And I think that we will also start to see more generational, like families living together, taking care of elderly parents or, you know, that kind of thing. Because elderly parents right now who are looking to downsize, what are they downsizing to? Yeah. You know, so I'm a big supporter of this community that's built up here with these ADU units. I think it's fantastic for Norfolk County.
Thank you very much.
And I think too, just a lot of times, it's not just the basement. Like an accessory dwelling unit can be the basement, it can be upstairs on the main floor, it could be over a garage, it could be a detached dwelling. So depending, and again, that's where you gotta look at each property on its own merits and what's capable, what could happen there. And then having that conversation with the building department, Norfolk County, and confirming what you can or can't do is just, it's super important, so.
Sure, go ahead.
So I know that you guys said that you've been working towards your subdivision of 156 homes. That's okay, for about 8 years now. How did your plans change within those 8 years of, because I know that you guys now have those accessory dwelling units in some of your properties. How did that change, and was that able to be changed easily with the municipal government, or was that a lot more work and money put into it for you guys?
So in phase one, turned it off on me, sorry. In phase one of the project, we did 3 homes, and they were bungalow style, single-family home that had a residential suite in it. And in each of those cases, they were used for family purposes. And except, well, 2 of them were specifically family, and then 1 ended up being family. It sat empty for a little bit just while they were trying to figure out. Honestly, it was a really hard process. Yeah, we had to work with the architecture people and the building department. It was not a common practice here, so everybody was learning, and it took a lot of time to get through it. We ran into delays. Thankfully, we had very understanding homeowners that were working through that process, because they knew, we were upfront with them that this is a new process here and people are working through the steps, learning. And then when we got into phase 2, most of our stuff was pre-sold initially, and they were single-family homes without separate entrances, and we just focused on trying to get the price point down, and we did the separate entrances on the semi-detached units only. And the very beginning of the project, we thought that we had 14 units, and we thought that 13 of them we would do separate unit or separate entrances on. We ended up cutting it down to half. And part of that was a cost thing, because with the separate entrance units, it's about an extra $25,000 a unit just to accommodate for that separate entrance. And it also needs a separate heating source. So we then had to look at, how we were going to heat that unit, and without it taking up extra space for furnace and equipment and stuff like that. So you just kind of play with the numbers and figure out what you can do. Yeah, thanks.
With that being like kept in mind, then was there anything that the municipal government or above that could have done to make that easier for you? Because in the current climate that we're in and the housing crisis that we're in, we're going to need to see more and more of these accessory dwelling units. Or I'm in real estate, so a lot of times people will sell them and it'll be not legal to legal code, and it's an in-law suite. Was there anything that could be done by local and provincial, and I don't know about federal, probably never.
It's hard for the local because they have to abide by the provincial code. So, and that's the issue that we're dealing with right now, is that you've got that completely separate entrance that's needed. If we didn't have that, and we could just stack the stairwells, have a door come in that either goes down to the basement or is a pass-through for the people upstairs as a fire emergency exit, then that would help a lot. You're still having to deal with the mechanical side of it, though. And then you've got separate laundry, you've got separate kitchen. Like, ours are fully contained, so they're great. They're just like, it's like a little one-bedroom apartment down there. And you're going to have those extra costs no matter what. It's just trying to get the overall size of the house tailored down to keep the price of the house down. Is that our answer? Yeah? Yeah, okay.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ange. Okay. So at this point in time, could I have a motion to accept that deputation as information? Paul, and a seconder? Mayor Martin? All those in favor? There. Okay. Now, our reports and discussion items, we have item 5.1, lobbying to upper levels of government. Now, I know that everybody has on their desk kind of a wish list here. I think that we did, was it Mayor Martin from our first meeting? Yeah, that we talked about different things that we could look at. So has everyone had a chance to go through their list? And I'd like to open up the floor for any discussion so that we could maybe look at ways that we could go about some of this lobbying to the provincial, in most part, the provincial government and the federal government. Mostly provincial, sorry.
I'll
ahead.
be honest, I want to know what we can do and take kind of the lead from you guys, because I will, as like just a regular tax-paying citizen, I don't know how to go about this. So that for me was a really great list of what makes sense for our community and for the citizens within our community of all levels. But I'm really looking forward to hearing from Mayor Amy Martin, and then also from the councillors, as well as what we can do to get involved and how we can more so spread the word of getting our clients and our family and our friends and our community involved as well.
Okay, that's a good point. Mayor Martin?
I think a jumping off point would be just to follow up on the deputation. So we just heard that home builders can't easily get accessory dwelling units built and can't keep the cost down because they have to follow the Ontario Building Code, which is what the municipality is asking them to uphold. So, maybe the direction here is to pass a motion asking council to consider writing a letter to the province that they review the Ontario Building Code legislation as it relates to accessory dwelling units in an effort to reduce the overall footprint of the house and the size of the price of the overall unit as well, and start to knock on that door so that while we're not only building accessory dwelling units, but we're also making it affordable and being conscious of the footprint.
Okay, thank you. I think that's a great jumping off point, and I think it serves the purpose of the core part of the meeting today, and it also bodes very well for the affordability aspect of the roundtable. So would you like to make that a motion? That sounded good. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a seconder? Okay, we have a seconder. I always forget your name. Nicole. And all those in favor? And that is carried. So again, just to recap, that will go forward to council. We will present that at council meeting, and we suggest nicely to council that they take into account our request for this action. Nicole?
In the event that council is not interested, is there something that roundtable members can do to continue that, not necessarily a motion for it, but that we can do to continue to advocate for our local builders and developers?
Well, that's an interesting question, because we don't, as a committee, we don't have, our actions going forward are basically decided upon by council. So I don't know, Mayor Martin, did you want to jump in here?
I would just recommend that you use your networks, like go through your real estate agencies, go through the Home Builders Association, and send the letter anyways, independently. If that's something that you're hearing, I'm sure you'll get lots of support from other developers. And I don't remember what it's called, but like it's Ontario Realty. They've got a governance arm.
Yeah, we have AREA and CREA.
AREA.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
something you could send through them as well. But yeah, I love that question. How to keep moving the needle when council doesn't support us.
Yeah, just in case. Just in case. Are there any other items on this list that you've had a chance to look at that you would like some further discussion on? I'm going to bring up one, and you can still peruse the list, and I can come back to you. I know that I've had this conversation with one of our senior leadership team members, and that is the apprenticeship programs for youth to become trades and county administration and staff in the communities. So that's not worded very well, but there's a lot of different jobs out right now in the municipal sector, in particular in water. And we talked about getting into the local high schools and explaining to them, the municipal concept of work and the water program and things like that. So I think that's a great idea in terms of looking at affordability and keeping our youth within our communities and moving forward and providing some employment opportunities. So I would like to say that we I would like to propose that as a motion, that we bring forth to council, that we would further like the senior leadership team to look into the possibilities of apprenticeship and the trades, and looking into a communication with our local high schools. Does that sound all right? Okay. So there's a motion on the floor. Is there a seconder for that? Okay, and that's seconded. Pardon? Holly. You'd think I'd know by now. All right, and all those in favor? And that is carried. Mayor Martin.
I have one. I went on a really cool tour yesterday to Woodstock, and I should have asked this question to Ange, maybe. I toured a concrete building that it's not prefab because it's poured on site, but then they just lift the walls up and assemble the unit. The lifespan on the roof is 60 years, and they certainly don't know what the lifespan is on the building that's fully made out of concrete, but no basement. One bedroom goes for $217,000. So it's meant to bring affordable housing, different housing types. Really exciting. I'm going to continue to look into this here for Norfolk County. It would be a great accessory dwelling unit or a community of these. But one of the things that the individual, that the company's name is Tilt Wall, and it's Jan Cleef Builders, they mentioned that they don't have, at this point in time, they're built fully to code, but they don't have Tarion insurance on it. And so I think that this would be something really positive, worth advocating for, to get some different housing types and options throughout Ontario. If a builder wants to hire them to come on site to their lot and build the homes, they can then use the builder's Tarion. But if a municipality or a single individual wanted to hire them, that that insurance does not translate over to them right now. So I think that might be something worth advocating for as we see these different housing types. There are, everything from really mobile homes to sheds that are being used as emergency shelters to these really unique. Quite honestly, I would buy one, and it would be an excellent first home. They go all the way up to 5 bedrooms, this particular company, but they don't have the insurance through Terrians. That would be something I would be interested in advocating upper levels of government for, to make it easier for them to bring housing to municipalities.
Okay, so we have that as a motion on the floor. Is there a seconder for that? Nicole? And all those in favor? And that is carried. Sarita?
Can I ask a question about one of these?
Sure.
The one about, it says ongoing efforts occurring, but the one for lobbying upper levels of government for tax incentives for larger businesses to set up shop in Norfolk County. Are there any details to disclose about that? And does it pertain to that new, beautiful, hopefully industrial park that we're gonna have? Or 150 acres that are allocated for said kind of businesses?
Okay, which one, which front page or back page? Back page?
Back page, third down.
Okay. Yeah. Ongoing efforts occurred on this front. I'm just going to take a chance to read over it. Okay, so did we pull this in a previous meeting? No, so we can do that as a motion then. And do you want it left the way it is worded, or do you want to reword that? It's up to you.
No, I think we can leave it as is, unless Amy has any additions. I am not the professional at these things.
Well, none of us are, because we're not the clerk's department. We depend heavily upon our clerk's department. Mayor Martin?
I guess I would just add to this one, any tax, incentives, they have to be balanced out by the municipality. So if we were, as an example, to decrease the commercial tax base for the community members, that doesn't mean they just pay less. It's like a pie. We have to then shift the pie chart. We have to then add more taxes from the residential community members to make up that gap. So from a tax incentive perspective, those tax dollars, they're municipal dollars. I think maybe better language would be, which the part that's ongoing is the economic development work to market ourselves for these businesses. I don't know that we want to go so far to say tax incentive, but we do have, you're right, we do have that industrial land. So as soon as the urban boundary expansion is passed, maybe the motion should be more directed to marketing those lands for business instead of tax incentive. That'd be my 2 cents.
Is the, Sarita, does that change sit with you?
Do we really have to lobby for that, though? Is that a thing that we lobby for? Or is that something that Norfolk County does? We're just going to market it better and hopefully draw on these businesses?
Market it better.
Okay, so then I guess we don't need a motion for that one, but something else has come to mind for me.
Okay, go ahead.
Am I correct that the Ride Norfolk funding is soon to come to an end? Well, we need transportation in our rural communities. We don't have Uber. We don't have any kind of ride share. There are people who depend on this. I think that we should put forth a motion that maybe that funding can continue to wordsmith that. I don't know if I'm going to be the best right now at 6 o'clock, whatever time it is.
No, that's a good point. There is a lot of change coming up in terms of the transportation. I agree wholeheartedly. We need to have that transportation available in our community. And I'm actually getting quite a few calls from people who wanted to expand it for evenings and weekends.
I agree. We have a very, we do have these hamlets, but we're very spread out everywhere, and we are very rural base. I think people should still have access to this service. I think it's a vital service. If it goes away, it's one less little gem that we have. And I think it's important that that funding continues.
I agree. And right now there is a communication strategy out and about in the community that is asking people to take part in the survey. So anyone that you speak to, have them check out the Ride Norfolk service or feedback, and they can provide their requests and their wish lists and things like that, and we definitely want to get as much as we can from the public regarding our transportation.
Do you know when the funding is ending?
I just had a conversation with Blair last week, and I believe it's next year. Don't quote me, but I think it's next year.
And the survey's on the county website?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and I believe it's on Engage Norfolk. Yeah.
Norfolk.
So with that, then, we will make a motion that our recommendation to council, our request to council would be that we continue to fund Ride Norfolk, in a nutshell.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So Sarita has that as a motion. Is there anyone who would like to second that motion? Holly? Okay, all those in favor? And that is carried. Sarita?
Did we ever create a motion regarding the ADUs and building code, making it easier and less expensive? Did we create a motion for that to lobby? We did? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just to add to the ADU and that motion, that I know that we did do that, but also with all the building that's coming to Norfolk County, and I know that's a hot topic with the community right now. Myself, I'm in Delhi. We have lost our golf course, which is, people are up in arms about. But just curious on how that works. Like I want to say there's several hundred homes coming to that area. Is there an amount that is to be allocated for ADUs, have to be a certain percentage of that, or affordable housing has to be a part of that through the developer?
There's nothing that was dictated by council that it has to be, but at the last presentation that Geranium did, those are the developers for that property, they were very clear that there is a section that will be affordable housing, not attainable. There will be some attainable, and then there's some townhouse type situations. There's some single dwelling homes in that as well too, isn't there, Mayor Martin? Yeah, I get more focused on the townhouse piece, because looking at it being more affordable and attainable for individuals. So there is a component of that in this development. Paul, go ahead.
Wouldn't that go through the planning department?
In terms of?
Types of homes?
Well, it comes forward. This is just the beginning, right? They haven't done all of that through the planning department. But yes, it would. They would work with the planning department on that. But in terms of what the actual development wants to do, they set it forward to us at council last week, and we looked at that, and then it was voted on and it passed, and then they'll go to the next step with the planning department.
Do they have a vision?
They appear to have a very clear vision as to what they're looking for in the community. But I will say, in terms of what Nicole mentioned, there are still some facets of the community that are split because of the loss of the golf course. But unfortunately, the loss of the golf course, it was a private golf course, so there wasn't anything, we couldn't force anybody to keep the golf course, unfortunately, but there was some division within the community regarding that.
I'm not talking just Delhi, but
Yep.
in the total area, in Norfolk County. They have a vision where, what's being built where?
Oh, I believe so, in terms of the developers who are looking at who brought forward their vision. They brought forward, I know some of the developers brought forth a very clear vision of what they were looking for the communities where the lands that they have. So it's, there's pieces with commercial development and residential and how that's going to go. It's not just going to be all houses. There will be commercial components to a lot of these developments, as well as community facets, things like land for the possibility of a school, which obviously is the Ministry of Education, but those types of things as well. So there has been a very clear vision that was set forth and in those meetings with the Planning Department and Council. You're welcome. Mayor Martin?
If it assists, two things. So yes, we just finished an urban boundary expansion that sets a direction for where development will occur inside the urban boundaries until 2051. That doesn't mean that it's all going to happen tomorrow. It doesn't mean that it'll ever happen, but that is the plan, the land use document that the county's sent off to the province for approval. So that's that first part. Nicole, to your question, so Councillor Huffman is right. There are back-to-back townhouse units with a smaller footprint and less land for more affordable prices. Then there is an agreement to partner with the county for affordable housing on the location plus single detached. But Norfolk County does have policies in a development. Once you hit a certain threshold, how much of it needs to be affordable, how much of it needs to be given consideration to that. They've also made a commitment to putting accessory dwelling units into some of the units, basements, but that is outside of their plans. That was just a commitment that they've made. So we will see that happen as well. But they have a 3-phase development in Delhi that at minimum will take them 15 years to build out.
Okay, so at this point in time, is there anything else that anyone would like to bring forward? Okay, Nicole, go ahead.
Sorry, just want to come back to a little bit of how much we're adding to our community. Like I know that there's building development being planned in Delhi, Waterford, Simcoe, all of that. But we also, as Delhi, we are a ripple community. We have people that are coming to our community from kind of a little bit of everywhere. Typically what we were seeing before was from the GTA. People who couldn't afford the GTA, they moved to Hamilton. They couldn't afford Hamilton, they moved to Brantford. Now they can't afford Brantford, they're coming to Norfolk. And now we're starting to see that continuing down the 403, we're starting to see people from Ingersoll. They can't afford Ingersoll anymore, so they're going to Woodstock. They can't afford Woodstock anymore, they're coming to Tillsonburg, they're coming to Delhi. And then we're gonna have multifaceted now with St. Thomas getting the battery plant, which is already going to happen. We know that that's going to happen. Is there any way that we can lobby the government to expand on Highway 3 to be able to provide access and routes and the ability for our community to continue to grow, but not to stunt the growth and stunt the ability for our community members to access and leave that? And then we also are very likely to get that ripple effect again as well, coming from people that want more affordable housing than what St. Thomas is going to become. Because we're definitely going to see that, and we're going to need an expansion of some sort to be able to feasibly make it work and for our community to be able to benefit from the surrounding areas.
Go ahead, Mayor Martin. I can tell you have your hand is itching to go up.
I think it's a great idea. I think would be something that would protect our community from becoming a bedroom community. If we can encourage transportation in and out, then we can have people commuting to work and bringing that money back into our community. Their children can stay here. We can grow. We can support more through healthcare and education and all of these great things. But also, it's going to attract more development to come if the highway has access in and out, and that is one of the big deterrents that we hear from industry, the lack of connectivity to the highway. So I would fully support this.
Just wondering if you would accept a friendly amendment to your motion, and not just Highway 3 but Highway 24 as well, so that we can look at both major corridors to the highway system.
When it comes to council, what is the easiest route to do that? Is it easier to have two separate motions or just one?
I think both, and I think both having the 3 and 24 in one motion is fine. It's been a long-standing conversation over council, and it's been in the works like for years and years, just through the provincial, hearing from the provincial government in terms of that. So it's our opportunity to lobby again, and hopefully we can get somewhere this time with it.
Absolutely. Whatever you think is best. I'm no idea how to say it other than how I did, so you tell me.
Okay, I'll see. What did you get down on that?
Transportation and increased connectivity between highway and Highway 3 and Highway 24.
Did you want to add anything to how you wanted it worded?
I guess just that, they're already expanding it. I want it to come farther.
Right.
So I think that they're stopping around Tilsonburg, so.
Increased expansion.
Or review of expansion on Highway
To
3.
the east?
And consideration of Highway 24, something along those lines.
Specific location, like Tilsonburg, you mentioned. Just review of what they've already decided. Review of the expansion on Highway 3 and advocacy for Highway 24.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a seconder for that? Sarita, all those in favor? And that is carried. Is there anything else on here that anybody would like to pull in? Go ahead.
Yeah, my thing is just concerning the definition of affordability, like having a concrete definition to go off of, because you can throw that word around all day and, it could apply to different situations instead of being tied to the average income of Norfolk residents, people who work and live in Norfolk. This would probably exclude people who work outside of Norfolk because it has to pertain to what you could feasibly make within the county, I think would be.
Yes, those words are tricky. And now all of a sudden, the new word that's out there is attainable. So it used to be affordable, now it's attainable, that you can attain it somehow, some way. And so that might be through, an ADU or something like that, that would make a residence more attainable for you. So affordable, there is, in terms of the housing corporation here in Norfolk County, there's the RGI, there's the rent geared to income, and then there's the market rent. So those would be considered affordable. Now, in terms of the actual price of a house, is there an actual price that's considered? And that price, do you know, Mayor Martin? I don't
know the price. The last time I heard through CMHC, I think, it's 30% of your income. The house can't exceed 30% of your, but I don't know that the government still uses that, so it might be a fair piece of advocacy to jump on and see if they can clean up some language around it. Yeah, but it used to be based on your income.
Yeah, obviously based on the income, but when I know in general, people want to say, okay, like is a $350,000 house, is that an affordable house? Are we looking at what Mayor Martin just mentioned when she was in Woodstock and looking at, Woodstock, right? Yeah. With the concrete slab kind of houses where those were under 3, quite a bit under 3. So with that, if you would like to make a motion that we discuss further, we just prompt the government to have a discussion with us in terms of looking at what affordable really means and what that, because it's in the news all the time, from the federal to the provincial to municipal, and it would be nice to have a hard price in place. And I'm assuming in some way, shape, or form that would help developers if there was an actual price in mind for the affordability. But how do you want to word it?
I think reviewing a concrete definition of affordability tied to the municipality.
Okay, we've got that written down. Is there a seconder for that? Paul, all those in favor? And that motion is carried. Is there anything else anyone would like to add? Paul, go ahead.
Councillor Kim, back on the apprenticeship. Yes. You were discussing regarding water? Can you take that one step further? What do you?
Obviously, as everyone knows, in municipalities, the water, the requirements for safe drinking water are paramount. And there are a lot of positions. Haldeman is recruiting right now. Norfolk's continually recruiting for wastewater operators. And there are some specific college programs that offer these. And so it was a case of getting, it's like it's one of those jobs that's out there that's in demand, but people don't really know about it. So I think one of the sayings right now is that for a lot of young children, like, I mean, we're talking, you know, my grandchildren's age, the job that they're going to do hasn't even been invented yet. So I think we haven't done a really great job of keeping up with what some of our municipal jobs are and showcasing those jobs to our youth within the community to try and get them to then come back into our community and work here and work in municipal government.
Regarding the trades, last 20, 25 years, the Norfolk County, both boards have been very, very helpful regarding work terms for students. And I'd say 80, 90% of the tradespeople out there right now, male or female, came from the high schools locally and Brantford. So it's a good idea to bring the students in the last 3 months of the year, and they get their credits for their subject, but they also get hours towards an apprenticeship.
Yeah, it's very important, and it's important, like, for the community to continue to keep, you know, to retain our youth and continue to keep them in our community, and it's a great partnership between the school board and contractor who had businesses such as yours. So I know that we have talked about, since my very first term of council, is improving the portfolio of the municipal work. When I was younger, I remember it was like people, if you could get into the municipal sector, that was great. Now it's kind of gone by the wayside and it's gone into more private industry. So we want to bring that back again and highlight what the municipal world can offer. But the trades are vital, and that's a big thing with this current provincial government as well, that they have done some lobbying for that. Anything else that anybody would like to add? Okay. All right, Mayor Martin, did you have anything to add before I kind of do some closing remarks? No? Okay. So our closing remarks are, we had one more meeting scheduled for, I believe it was September, and Mayor Martin had suggested at the beginning, before the meeting started, that we look at maybe wrapping up our meetings just with it being coming summertime and then September, that we've covered a good amount of what we wanted to cover. We've got some great suggestions going forward to council, and I think we've got some great ones tonight as well. So just wanted to know if anyone had any concerns if we decided to wrap up our roundtable tonight. Are there any concerns? No? Okay. So with that, do we need to vote on that? No, okay. I wasn't planning on it, but I thought, oh, I never know. So with that, I would like to thank everybody very much for your commitment to the Mayor's Affordability Roundtable. It has been refreshing to get different ideas and different perspectives of people who have a strength of us, you know, that isn't normally around the council table, and it's just a different view, and it's a learning experience, and it's a way to involve our community on a regular basis in the decisions that council makes. So Mayor Martin and I will do our best when we present to council and to try and get 100% success rate on following through on our very polite recommendations to the council members. So with that, I would like to, could I have a motion for adjournment? Sarita and Segner, Paul, all those in favor? And that motion is carried, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.